Hi there! I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is day 3 of the 12 Days of Litmus. The 12 Days of Litmus was created by Adrian and Dalton from Stripcover Lit, and I will link to their announcement video below. This is a 12-day video challenge that involves a summation of your year in booktubing and in reading. Today's prompt is the best book that I read this year. And this is a tough one because my two favorites that I read this year are probably not actually the best in terms of overall success. So I'm going to cheat and name all 3 of them. I would say that my overall favorite in terms of entertainment was Colson Whitehead's Zone 1, which I've seen described as a literary zombie novel, and that is a fantastic description. The main character in that is a young man whose job is cleaning straggling zombies out of New York City after a zombie apocalypse. And it is written in a very non-linear style, and it's very meditative, which is not what one normally thinks of when you think of a zombie novel. You might think of action and rampaging, but it was surprisingly deep. And that was one that I listened to in audio, so to be fair, I felt like I should also name something that I actually read, because obviously the actor reading the narration has a big impact on the enjoyment of that. So I can't necessarily say whether the memorability is 100% text versus some of the narrator's interpretation. So to be fair, I will also name my favorite book that I actually read, which was Ahmed Saadawi's Frankenstein in Baghdad, which I have heard described as a literary monster novel. Kind of a fair description, although I would call it more of a satire. It is about a composite Frankenstein-style monster who is taking revenge in Baghdad, but it's also about the people in the neighborhood around him and the state of Baghdad in the early 2000s after the Americans have invaded and what's happening during all of that. I thought that one was a great success. I really enjoyed it. There were some bits that, and I don't know if it's from the original or from the translation, but there were a few bits and pieces that maybe weren't perfect, which is why I wouldn't say it was the best thing that I read, but it was definitely one of my 2 favorites. But I thought for the best, I want to name something that I don't think have many flaws in terms of what it was trying to do. And for that, I'm going to name another book that gets called a literary genre book, and that is Samanta Schweblin's Fever Dream, which is basically a incredibly atmospheric and creepy literary horror novel that has some of the best mood building and the best creepiness factor building in it that I have ever read in anything. The story itself is not straightforward at all. It is confusing. Even having read it, I can't tell you if the main character is alive or dead, if she was experiencing ghosts or hallucinating. A lot of that is up in the air, which is part of what creates the atmosphere in it. The plot, such as it is, involves some couples from the city who are somewhere in rural Argentina. Something has happened with the children, and we're exploring where that goes. The reason this isn't my favorite is because I think that style of story doesn't necessarily hold up as being very impressive once you've finished reading it, because it's very strong in the moment, but when you reflect on it, there's not actually that much there. But for what this book was trying to do, I thought it was really a masterpiece, because I don't think I've read anything that created atmosphere as successfully as that did. So that was definitely, I think, the best book that I read this year. What about you? Do you consider best and favorite to be 2 different categories? And if so, what would be your best and favorite read of the year? I'd be curious to know if they're the same or different for you. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.